When I was at school, I was taught chemistry by a teacher who was a very avowed atheist. He would always say that for all the apparently supernatural happenings in the Bible, there could be found a rational, natural explanation. So, for example, the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000 in last Sunday's Gospel reading could be explained by people being so moved by the preaching of Jesus that they were then spontaneously moved to share their food with each other. And in this week's Gospel reading, Jesus walking on water, well, either he was in fact wading close to the shore, or perhaps there was actually an extended rocky ledge jutting out into the lake on which Jesus was walking, apparently therefore on the water, but in reality not so. Was this miracle then just misinterpretation of natural fact? Or perhaps Jesus really did walk on the water? In trying to tease out all this, we can actually end up missing what it is all about. Because what surely matters in these miracle stories of Jesus is what they symbolically mean. The feeding of the 5,000 can very much be seen as looking forward to Jesus feeding and satisfying us in the Eucharist, to what Jesus was to institute at the Last Supper, and that may be a clue to start us off. It was after the Last Supper that Jesus began to be parted from his disciples, leaving them apparently alone, defenceless and fearful in the darkness of that Maundy Thursday night. Are there not striking parallels with our Gospel story? After the miraculous feeding, Jesus is parted from his disciples. They get into the boat to cross the lake, whilst Jesus is somewhere else. It was in the Maundy Thursday night that the fearful disciples were to run away. In our Gospel reading, it is again at night when the disciples encounter the fearfulness of the storm. And as they go into the beginning of the next day, Jesus appears with a test of faith for Peter. Was it not at the very beginning of Good Friday that Peter was to have a similar test of faith? Then he could not find sufficient faith. He denied Jesus 3 times. Now, in its prefigurement, he again cannot find the necessary faith, and when he looks at the strong wind surrounding him, he fails. He begins to sink. Yet, in fact, although Peter apparently fails so miserably, he it is who is to be the rock on which the church is built. And after the resurrection, Jesus, standing once again by the lakeside, gives to Peter the command 3 times to feed his sheep. 3 times he had denied. Now for each of those 3 times he is given the chance to put things right and to prove that he really has the faith to carry it through. So, in this seemingly odd episode of Jesus walking on the water, we cannot help but be looking across to what was to happen in his passion, death, and resurrection. In both, Jesus apparently leaves frightened disciples who let go even of their faith in him, only to find later that he really is there, saving and upholding them. So, whatever we think of what really happened on the lake, what we are actually being told is a truth which the disciples found in that lake storm, which they found in the events of Good Friday and Easter, and which we too find in our own spiritual journey. And the truth is that it does indeed sometimes seem that God is not there, that he does not care, that he even has gone missing. And this appears so in the darkest storms of our life. What we have to do is to hold on. This is what Peter had to do, holding on when Jesus put out his hand to catch him. And we hold on if we hold to the life of the Church, if we hold to the sacraments, even though the darkness seems all-pervading. Jesus will enable us to come safely to our desired harbour, our eternal life with him.